Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms. You might notice behind me is a beautiful stack of rough cut lumber. And we've got several different species in here. There's a lot of black walnut off of two different trees. A lot of that is 1 inch, like 15-inch wide slabs. And I've got some narrower live edge stuff. We've also got 2 species of oak. We have hedge. And then I've got a really nice looking stack of cherry over here that I'll show you in a minute. And one of my goals or projects I'm pursuing on the property is to take trees from standing trees, fell them myself, cut them down into saw logs, mill them, plane them, and go all the way through to finished woodworking projects. I think that would be really rewarding, and I like the idea of maybe showing you guys some of those projects start to finish, from felling the tree all the way through a finished piece of furniture. And my father has a lot of experience with that type of woodworking, and he also has some nice equipment we can use. And I've got access to the trees, and I've got access to a sawmill, and I want to do a couple of these before I buy my own sawmill. So I'm really excited to get into this. I've been standing here looking a little bit, trying to decide what I want to use today. Right here is an example of some really prime lumber. I don't know yet what this is going to be, but we've got about a 3-inch thick, 15-inch wide slab. Walnut, black walnut, beautiful color on it. And I've got a few of these, and then I've got a bunch of 1-inch out of that same tree. But this hasn't been milled for very long. I don't think we should really plane it until it's had time to see if it's going to warp or cup or anything. This piece back here that looks dirtier, that is also black walnut. It's thinner. I think it's been milled 1.5 years ago. A little over 1 year ago. So it should be ready. So I think I'll take that one and we'll run it through the planer and maybe a little bit of this cherry and see how that comes out. I've done one other video running that planer, but it didn't work very well. I kind of struggled with it. It needed new blades. It's mandatory that you have a dust collector run on it because it clogs up very quickly if you don't. So I'm going to go inside, get that fixed up, and we're going to try to mill some lumber. Okay, here's the piece of walnut we're going to use for our test. And then this right here looks like a good piece of cherry to test out on. Yeah, let's try these two. Can't wait to see how this turns out. So I do need to replace these blades, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because odds are most of you watching don't have the exact same planer. This is the blade or the knife, and it's got a plate that basically clamps this down. So you take the bolts loose, the knife has springs under it, it'll pop out, put the new one in, and you set this on top, and this kind of pushes down on the knife and holds it, it sets it against this round roller. And then you just tighten the bolts back down. It seems like it's going to be a pretty straightforward process. This is the old blade back to back with the new blade. The height is almost exactly the same. So I don't think these old blades have ever been sharpened. But as you look, they're not sharp at all. Basically just a blunt tip, but more than that, there are a lot of nicks. It's gonna be hard for me to show you guys that. But there's a nick, there's a nick, there's a nick, there. So definitely past the point of needing sharpened. And the owner's manual basically tells you probably don't want to do it yourself. You want to take these to a machine shop to be sharpened. All right, I noticed here these belts are loose. This one on the outside is really loose. The other two are just slightly loose. So I really need to replace these belts, at least this belt, but if you're going to do one, you should do them all. So they probably even sell sets of 3. Well, let's fire it up. Hopefully it's not making any funky noises. This is a 220 planer, so I have to set it in one spot because I've run the correct power to this spot right here. All right, as soon as I get the dust collector in place, we can start making lumber. Okay, so I just slid this under here. We'll at least get it adjusted down close. This is the cherry lumber that I milled with my friend Tony. So I'll link to that video at the end of this one. And if you haven't already, go check out Tony's Tractor Adventure. Show you the profile of this. It has a little bit of a bow. So it's going to remove quite a bit of material. I'm gonna flip it over the other way now. I didn't make any adjustment when I flipped it over because of the bow. I didn't know how it would sit in there. You can see it's only taking off on the outside edge right now. Okay, so this started as a true 1 inch, and we have now taken it down to 5/8 of an inch. Typically, you'd be looking to keep 3/4 inch boards when you cut 1-bys. And obviously, if we wanted rough cut lumber to be the finished product, we could have kept, over 3/4 of an inch. But this had enough bow in it that we had to remove 3/8 of an inch. I probably could have done a little bit less and kept us at 3/4. But man, that has a nice smooth feel to it. It's not like sanded lumber, but it's pretty smooth. Now, let's get a look at what this will look like when it's finished. So this wet look right here is what you would get if you put a clear coat on this. And obviously we could darken it up with a little bit of something that has a little bit of a cherry tint in the stain. But man, that's nice. I'm just sitting here thinking about all the different things we could do with this lumber. Now we have this massive piece of walnut, which is a bigger challenge. Got to decide what I want to do with that. Okay, so let's look at this walnut and see what we've got. This was originally all cut to 2 inches. Get right there, 1 3/4. Yeah. Sometimes I like to not use the tongue on the tape measure just in case it's off. But we've got 1 7/8. So this was cut to 2 inches. It's currently 1 7/8. This should be fully dry, but I chose this one because it has a lot of bow to it. And I wanted to see what happens to a board with that much bow when you run it through the planer. Now, I think we'll be lucky to get a 1 inch thick board out of this, which is all right. Not all of them are bowed this bad, but there's only one way to find out, I guess, what we're going to get out of it, is to run it through. I'm also worried, walnut's pretty hard wood. We've actually got a hardness scale here. So, the hardest lumber they have listed on here is black locust at 2,500 PSI shear. And the lowest is balsam fir at 700. So if the range between the hardest wood and the softest wood we'll encounter goes from 700 to 2,400, that cherry was 1,700. So you're about halfway. Well, it's more than halfway. That's a hardwood, but it's more on the softer end of hardwood. And actually the walnut's a little bit below that. So this walnut should be a softer wood than the cherry. So I think it's going to handle it. We have a 15-inch cutting width possible. And this is 13 inches. Yeah, I think we can do it. All right, now let's get a look at this. Now tell me that's not some beautiful wood. And I went out and I selected this tree and I felled it and I assisted milling it. I actually got to run the sawmill on this one. And now I've planed it down, and I love the idea of doing this and making products. I've got a passion for this, and I've got everything I need to do it except the sawmill. Because in addition to this industrial planer, I've also got access to a joiner, table saws, a panel saw, and actually a lot of other woodworking equipment. So, if you guys have an interest in seeing this type of video, let me know in the comments if you actually like this. I thought about doing like a Woodworking Wednesdays series. I tell you what, I absolutely love the smell of walnut. When I was a kid, we had walnut trees everywhere, and one of my favorite things to do was go around and harvest walnuts, the actual walnuts. And just up the road from us, there was a place that would hold the walnuts, and you got the money for it. So to me, that smells like my childhood, and it smells like making money as a kid and just home. So I'll probably be doing some more of these. I'm really happy. I was afraid of how this might turn out. One thing I need to do is actually measure and see how much thickness we have left. So this was milled to 2 inches, and it was 1 7/8 inches before planing. And if we, again, I don't trust these when I'm trying to get within a 1/16. 1 inch and 3/16. So from 7/8, we took off 11/16 on this. And that's just a reflection of the amount of bow it had. But now we have a nice straight piece of lumber, and it's more than a true 1 inch. So definitely still a lot that can be done with a piece of wood like this. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.